Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Thursday, January 16th, 2025. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and change. Normally, I look really fresh. Today, I probably don't. Playing hurt today, kids. The house is a petri dish when you get all the kids back. So if I'm not my normal effervescent self, I apologize. Hopefully, the impending championship game will give us a little boost. Got Bill Kurelic and Mark Porter coming up here real quick. But first, as you're getting ready here, gaining a little bit of weight in the winter, you know what does that? Booze. Don't I know it? Look at this thing. It's bad. There's a way to deal with that now, though, and that is cornbread hemp. Organic THC gummies that are 100% legal and a way to swap alcohol for a guilt-free option. Is it dry January? Is it a New Year's resolution? Are you just making healthier choices? In 2024, it was reported that more people now use THC than drink daily. There are people who used to need a glass of wine at night. They've recently been trying something new, cornbread hemp. They didn't think they could actually do dry January. Then they found cornbread hemp. They need to upgrade to their weeknight routine. It's been a game changer. So cornbread hemp, America's only USDA organic THC gummy, real THC, no synthetics. Alcohol does not have to be the default anymore, whether you're doing dry January or just looking for a healthier way to relax and have a guilt-free good time. You got to try Cornbread's THC gummies. Right now, Bucknuts Morning 5 listeners can save 30% on their first order. Just head to cornbreadhemp.com/Bucknuts and use code Bucknuts at checkout. That's cornbreadhemp.com/Bucknuts, code Bucknuts. This is the good life. All right. These are the guys that are going to carry the show today. We're going to do a lot of questions, but I think the thing we should start with, just giving current events and such. Bill, I was of the mind that Damon Wilson would be a Buckeye. He is not. He has committed to Missouri. Your thoughts on the developments there and what Ohio State may do now? Is it a one-off? Your thoughts?
Well, I think people were a bit surprised maybe they would have picked Missouri, but as I mentioned last podcast, right away when I wrote about him, good morning, Deetra, I mentioned Missouri. They kind of went all in. I had someone tell me that Missouri was making him a priority and thought that they may be prepared to make a big offer, an out of the ordinary offer for them. And I think that's exactly what happened. He visited both schools. Both schools obviously were wanting to bring him in, but you've got a situation where a combination of what is offered, and then also Ohio State has a couple of guys coming back that factor into their plans heavily. Kenyatta Jackson and Caden Curry. And while Damon Wilson would have been a nice addition, those two guys certainly have played pretty darn well at different points this season. So he ultimately opts for Missouri. But it is a situation where the transfer portal is pretty much never really closed. It may say closed, but as soon as that first coach gets another job and then another coach from another school takes his job and all, then more players enter the portal. And you've got the spring. So as we've always tended to say on Bucknuts, when Ohio State misses on one guy, they always seem to find another guy, and sometimes, quite often, that guy is better than the guy they originally missed on.
Just reading the tea leaves here. This is just me reading the tea leaves. I get the sense that Wilson was essentially promised a starting spot, and they could not do that here. And then, cash followed. But that's what I would guess. All right. I'll tell you something.
I'm still wondering why Georgia was such a bad place to play over Missouri. I mean, if you're coming out of high school, do you choose Missouri over Georgia? How many times out of 10? and here you have a guy who's hitting the eject button. Yeah, I can see your eyes. There's something where there's smoke, there's fire. Is that fair enough to say? Like,
sure, and I think also
you just lost your quarterback to another school. You lose this primetime defensive end. What's going on in Georgia?
I think the two points probably link up common sense wise, and that you're saying, why would he leave Georgia is a good question, and then why would he choose Missouri over Ohio State is a good question. So perhaps actual on-play quest for a championship is not the be-all end-all for Damon Wilson. I don't think it's the be-all end-all for most people these days anyway, but I digress. All right.
I also don't think it's a situation of he thought he couldn't start at Georgia next year. I mean, they really wanted to keep him.
Yeah. No, I don't dispute that.
He could have started at Georgia next year.
Yeah.
And then also another factor is at Ohio State, they play a 4-3, and their defensive ends are primetime guys for pass rushing and all. Georgia, the situation is not quite the same, too.
You're right. He's more of a 3. He looked on tape like a 3-4 outside linebacker defensive end, more than a hand in the dirt defensive end in the 4-3. Like, well, that's a really good point, Bill. All right, here's who's going to have to make good points today. All of the coaches that will be at Adam Guthrie's house. This is impressive. I wonder if there's some deal set up with like a local hotel or maybe an Outback Steakhouse around there. I just looked in here at your story, Bill. I'm going to read something for you and for everybody for that matter, because they're all on the pod. It will be a busy couple days for Adam Guthrie, the offensive line from Washington Courthouse, Miami Trace. Ohio State comes in first today, then North Carolina State. Indiana and then Penn State is making their in-home visit tonight. Clemson coach Matt Luke is coming to his game Friday night. Good Lord. Guthrie has 40 scholarship offers, and he wants to take official visits before he picks a college. Bill, Adam Guthrie was kind of a guy we discussed, maybe, and now it seems like he's a definite when it comes to Ohio State's wish list, and everyone else has gotten involved. Your thoughts?
And you didn't even mention a cancellation there. Justin Fry was going to be there this afternoon. Ed Terwilliger is going to be at Washington Courthouse, Miami Trace this morning. He comes in first. Then Justin Fry was going to follow up and be at Guthrie's basketball practice this afternoon. But more important things sometimes get in the way, as in Ohio State is practicing this afternoon.
They got a game?
There's no knock on Adam Guthrie. He's an outstanding prospect. But if your team's practicing, you're going to be at that team's practice, and Ohio State's practicing this afternoon. So Justin Fry won't be in to see Guthrie this afternoon. But, it's quite a list. And, he's a 6'7", 295-pound guy that has got 40 scholarship offers, as you mentioned, and Ohio State is one of those. So he's getting the red carpet treatment today and tomorrow, for that matter. And I'm sure Matt Luke's stopping tomorrow at his basketball game. I would guess that in the next 24 hours, there'll be a school or two added to that list of who is going to stop to see Adam Guthrie tomorrow.
Mark, your thoughts on Ohio offensive lineman Adam Guthrie?
Yeah, what makes me the most mad this year is the night I went to see him play, the game was rained out. That was the big bummer. So I've only got to see tape and him at camps, and I was really looking forward to the progression and seeing it live. But no-brainer from the state of Ohio. We want that length. We need more players with that length on the edge. He has the feet to go along with it. I think the interest is justified with all these schools there based on the tape I've seen. And again, there's more players in this class of 2026 in the offensive line in Ohio that we're going to be talking about. But it's nice to get a couple of these guys nailed down early if that's possible. I do worry that this kid may want to go take some visits. With 40 offers, there's plenty of, meat on the bone for him to go around and maybe get a few. I mean, I'm hearing now a lot of these kids are going to get paid to go on their visits as they're, so there might be some financial reasons why he's going to go a few places before he makes his decision. But that's just the tea leaves and the way this new environment has shaped up.
Mark wasn't the only one that had misfortune with Adam. I went to his game, and he got hurt in the second quarter, a knee injury. And it was a significant, I mean, it wasn't a knee injury where he just came back out on the field. He actually missed a couple games after that too, because of that knee injury. Fortunately, it wasn't a really, really serious injury, and he got back on the field for Miami Trace during the football season after missing a few games. And now he's having a really good basketball season for Miami Trace. In fact, Miami Trace right now, Division III state of Ohio, is the number 2 team in the state of Ohio in basketball right now. They are, I think, 11-0 right now. And Guthrie is averaging close to 20 points per game, and I believe around 10 rebounds a game.
Better be 10.
6'7", 285-pound post man. That's not bad. So he's having a really good basketball season too.
And I've told people here, it is not uncommon for these Buckeyes to also be tremendous hoopers. Cade Stover was the best defensive rebounding guy I ever saw in AAU. He'd go up with his elbows out, and people would be like, you can have it. You go right ahead with that ball. And Jack Sawyer, we talked about, he probably would have been a Division I basketball player, considering he was the most productive freshman in the state when he played. He eventually focused on other stuff. Turns out it's worked out well for old Captain Jack. All right, question from Greg Garber. This is a good one. We talk a lot about Justin Fry, and he was, let's be fair, vilified by many throughout the last year or so, and he's an interesting case study in fans because with the transfer portal, I do think we now need to add that as another column that a coach could be great at, and considering the fact that Ohio State did you can't do much better with offensive linemen in the portal than getting a center who wins the Remington and a left tackle from San Diego State who's going to be picked in the top 15 this year. So, every recruit we go after, the goal is for him to end up being like Josh Simmons. So it's very interesting. But I think ultimately Fry is going to be judged by how well the Armstrong brothers play. Mark, what have you heard about them? We've gotten the chance to see them milling about. They are enormous. Has your expectations improved, changed, watered out?
I know their parents follow the podcast here, and we usually get comments. So maybe we'll get an update there of exactly what's going on. The last I talked with them, I was with my son, and they couldn't have been more hospitable and welcoming and nice kids and all that stuff. So I want to pass that along to the parents. But as far as the football goes, it's a national championship game next week, and they haven't played all year. So nothing immediately is going on. I don't think we're going to see him in the starting lineup this week as a surprise thing. So let's start there. So they're basically their role this year, and I don't think anyone thought they were going to step in as freshmen and, supplant anybody. But they've got the ride of a lifetime, and they've got the experience of a lifetime that is what they need to be players next year. You brought up the transfer portal when you started talking about them, and it kind of scared me. Whereas, do you know something I don't know? Is there something going on where they feel like our path to the field has been impeded by maybe a transfer or two? Maybe some of these new guys coming from Minnesota and other places may push their reps back. I'm not sure. That battle has not transpired yet. I would think during spring ball is when the biggest update on the Armstrongs is going to be available. Where do they find themselves in the rotation? Where do they find themselves with the first unit, second unit? But when I saw them this summer, they had already started the process of totally changing their bodies over from, the baby fat and the young guy stuff to becoming, like they're saying 8,000 calories a day or 6,000 calories a day of protein and all these other things. So I think spring ball is probably the fairest way to say, is there a real update? But right now, their depth and there are guys that are positioned probably to be in that starting mix, at least one of them. If there is one ahead of the other, you might see one of them figure in there. But until we see Jaden Daniels and some of these other guys and how they figure in, it might be too soon to tell.
I'm thinking left to right here for the offensive line next year. There's going to be some openings, obviously. They've got some guys coming in from the portal. We got some youngsters coming up. So it will be very interesting. Got to replace some mainstays up there. I'm not sure I'm comfortable going into a game without Donovan Jackson on our side, but I digress.
Also, the Armstrongs were not got kids that thought they were just going to walk into Ohio State and start as a freshman. They were not that way at all. They knew. I talked to both Deontay and Devontae many times. They knew that that's not realistic. That it was going to take a little time for development. So I don't at all see them as guys that would even think about getting in the portal right away. There's just wasn't what they were thinking going into Ohio State.
I had no implication of them going into the portal. That was totally separate. I would be shocked. Why? Yeah, I don't see that happening, unless they just aren't as good as we thought. And I don't think they're anywhere near
that would be too soon to judge that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That makes sense.
Two developmental guys, first semester.
They look great, by the way. They look great.
Yeah.
This is not like they're not the kind of guys you quit on.
Yeah, there are no bad signs yet. Like I said, it's tough to give an update when, like I said, they're not starting.
Here we go.
This next game.
We asked
There we go.
Erica Cara. She would know. This is Moms. They are getting better every day against Jack, JT, and the rest of the defense. That's a great point, by the way. We're going to go intern somewhere, intern against the best. They're ready to compete for a spot next year. I think everyone will be pleasantly surprised for the whole class. 6'7", 315 for Deontay, 6'6", 330. O-line is a process. They aren't going anywhere. That's about as good a text or
an update as you can get.
You cannot get it. That is going into the January. That is the number one January comment. 16 days in, we're calling the race. So that's great to know. I cannot imagine having to feed two boys like that in your house. Good Lord. Go ahead, Mark.
I'm impressed by 330. That's impressive. That's going to bode well for him, especially moving around some of those interior guys. And I'm sure it's a great looking 330. That's
key. And I think, you don't come to Ohio State and go from 305 to 330 and put on bad weight. No way, man. You think you are like you're like Ivan Drago in Rocky IV. They got everything. They are monitoring everything. So if you have a Twinkie, they are on you.
Hold on. It's amazing to think that Rocky IV Drago is what futuristic athletes look like. And that's a movie from 25 years ago. Hey. Don't we have a better movie that, the future of futuristic athletes is better than the Russians 25 years ago at Ohio State? As I digress.
Give it to me. What is it?
I know.
Dude. Ivan
and as I was thinking that, I'm like, wow, that was futuristic, and it still feels futuristic. But
it also
it's the norm at most college programs. I tell you what, that convention, the stuff they're doing to these athletes down there to test them with the vests
monitoring
they're wearing
and the sleep.
Yeah, I'll just to digress a second. You know those vests they wear during the game to give you miles per hour, change directions or whatever? Sure. Those are getting so accurate that they want those to eliminate a combine altogether, because if we put one of those on you during a game, right, we know what you are. Like, we kind of, you can't fake the funk with that on you. So that's kind of in the Ivan Drago of futuristic ways we look at these athletes now.
I never thought of that. That's a really good idea. Well, it's like Urban said about recruiting. You don't go out on the road in December now. You just send out your accountant, hook up the Venmo, and you go from there. Go ahead, Bill.
Not to get off that topic and go back to football a little bit, but Mark said something about 330. I'm sure it's a great 330 pounds, great looking 330 pounds. I think Mark would attest to this as well. When the Armstrong twins were in high school and weighing around 280 to 300 pounds or so, they were a great 280 to 300 pound looking kids. They were not the big belly kids or anything else. They looked fantastic at that weight. So yeah, I'm sure that they look really good at their current weights.
Speaking of looking good, I don't want to make these guys jealous, but check this out. These are Tarmac Daddies, and they are fire. And they're only $25. Gooder, Goodr, stylish sunnies, $25 a pair. I've gone over this. You go to the game with your prescription sunglasses or your fancy Varnays, and you lose them, and you're bummed. This is what you need. You need Gooder sunglasses. Like I said, stylish sunnies, starting at only $25 a pair. No slip, no bounce, all polarized, all fun. 1-year warranty, 30-day free returns. If you want to support the show and try a pair, Gooder is giving Bucknuts Morning 5 listeners free shipping. You can go to gooder.com/Bucknuts and use code Bucknuts for free shipping. Gooder offers a 30-day money-back guarantee and 100% satisfaction. Again, that's gooder.com/Bucknuts and use code Bucknuts for free shipping. All right. So
Hey, Gooder, how about some cheaters that look okay? Because Bill and I could use some cheaters to read the comments here. And, I mean, I'd like an upgrade.
You're getting old, dude.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you put on those tarmacs, and Bill and I are over here looking 15 years older than our real age because of our cheaters.
Yeah, sight is something that
Lost market, the cheater market.
It goes. I learned I needed glasses on a ride back from a dinner one night, and I was driving for the whole family, and I'm like, if we get home alive, I'm getting glasses. And we lived. All right. Question.
My eye doctor told me that he said, you're going to be one of those guys that's going to get to 40 to 45 and just say, keep putting off getting readers and just say, you can read. And he was right. I waited till I was about 50 to use any type of glasses, and that's past the curve of what you're supposed to start at.
Yeah, I don't do the readers. I think mine was screwed by becoming a reporter and looking at the computer like this all day.
Oh, that's it. That's it.
Should have become a shepherd, so I could have been out there and just among the people, among nature. It's like Fletch. All right. Do you think we offer Landry breed? What's going on with Mason Wilhelm? Okay, Mark, you can handle the Landry breed and tell us who he is, and you can also tell us who Mason Wilhelm is, and then Bill, you can hook up the recruiting. There's been a bunch of questions on Mason Wilhelm. He is the son of Matt Wilhelm, former Buckeye. My bad. Go ahead, Marcus.
I think Landry is next on deck, is one of the Ohio guys. I think the Codigan kid from Tusky Valley is also one of the guys next on deck. I think last time I answered this question, I said, if Ohio State could, I'd like to get a couple of these Ohio guys, Eli Sanchez and the kid at Perkins and the kid at Glenville, Jameer Perez, and work them out at the offensive line in camp and then make my decision. If we could, play the waiting game with these guys and string them along. And, you hate to do that. But from Ohio State's perspective, if you have four guys that, I like all four, and you could throw Mason Wilhelm in there. And Mason is by far the youngest. Talking with his dad at the camp last year, he's got one of those late birthdays. And, if you know anything about puppy dogs or whatever with the big paws, they show the big paws before they show their big frame and all that other stuff. Mason's kind of in that boat where he's a developing guy, and he would be an offer candidate the way Ohio State's going right now. But I'd like to get all those guys in camp. I mean, what are we doing this summer if we offer them all right now in January? But those guys are all the names we should be discussing and watching their film. And as we get away from this national championship game, I'm sure we're going to do podcasts where, Mark, let's break down all these guys in depth. I think we did that last year, and I think all three of us kind of said, okay, of the films, this was our favorite. We'll go dive in deep like that and really give you the answers. But right now, those are the dudes.
William?
Mason Wilhelm is the guy that Ohio State saw last week. They stopped at his school. Ed Terwilliger, in fact, I mentioned this in the when we talked about earlier that Ed Terwilliger is one of the guys that is picking up the on-the-road recruiting. Obviously, the Ohio State staff is the number one priority, as it should be, is to win the national championship. So last week, the guys who went out on the road were led by Mark Pantone, Ed Terwilliger, and Nick Murphy. Nick Murphy spent a lot of time last week in North Carolina because he's got roots there. Mark Pantone's got roots in Florida. He spent a lot of time last week in Florida. Had to brave the weather elements down there of warm weather. But and Ed Terwilliger's roots are in Ohio, so he spent his time last week in Ohio stopping at schools. Nick Murphy is recruiting in the Atlanta area today. Ed Terwilliger is recruiting once again in Ohio. So Terwilliger saw Mason Wilhelm last week. He was at his school. Wilhelm, as you mentioned, Dan, is an Ohio State legacy. He's a 6'4", 280-pounder that will likely, 285-pounder that likely will be a guard in college. And his scholarship offer is kind of right now list is kind of interesting right now. It's got schools like Miami of Ohio and Toledo on his offer list. but it's also got Baylor and Vanderbilt, for instance. So he's a guy that's on the Buckeyes radar screen, but hasn't been offered to this point.
Alrighty. There's a question up here I found interesting. Is Sonny Styles coming back? Sonny entered with such high praise. I always thought he'd be an early exit guy. He does have another year left if he wants it. What's your thought on that, Mark?
I don't know if his draft stock is high enough where he would leave. I've been sharing stuff with you guys about how some of the college players have now, the top college players, their salaries have surpassed some of the rookies in the NFL. And I would think he'd be a candidate where you could keep him for a certain amount of money, maybe more than a third-round draft pick would make or a fourth-round, and give him a chance to be, because you kind of mentioned it, you would have thought he would have been a first-rounder with, the excitement coming out of high school and, boy, the long body and the speed. But as you watch Blue run away from him down the sidelines and, man-to-man, that doesn't improve your draft stock. Mm-hmm. That gets you off the field on third downs or when you're facing faster players. So that's probably where this is at. It might be, a sit down and you have to recruit your own team after the season. He'd be one of the top guys to recruit back on that type of deal.
I agree with both Mark and Eric Turnbull, who says Sonny will be back. He's just scratching the surface of linebacker. One more year, he'll shoot up draft boards. I think you're right. Okay. You guys will not be here on this show again. Well, you'll be on the show again, obviously. Otherwise, there'd be really something to talk about here. But before the national championship game. So what we're going to do here is we're going to get your vibes. You guys are going to make a pick, and then we're going to look at some video, obviously, from the second half of the Cotton Bowl, which was wonderful. So, Bill, I will go to you first. I don't think anybody thought it would be Ohio State, Notre Dame when the season began. In fact, I don't remember a lot of people looking at the playoff bracket and coming up with Ohio State and Notre Dame. Forgive me if I'm wrong. If you guys know a bunch of people who did that, I don't remember seeing that from anybody. But it is a Midwest showdown. Ohio State versus the Fighting Irish. Pretty incredible matchup. Your thoughts, the Dean, on who will win and a score.
My first thought is when you said Midwest showdown, it is a Michigan nightmare.
Yeah, it is.
Having Ohio State and Notre Dame in the national championship game, which Ohio State fans, of course, like that. But I think it's going to be a low-scoring. Well, let me say, I think for Notre Dame to have a realistic chance to win, it's got to be a low-scoring game. I don't think they're going to win a shootout. Not the way they play offense. I think it's going to be kind of a medium-scoring game. I think Ohio State's going to win. A few concerns I have is making sure on the Ohio State end that they stop Riley Leonard and his running. That's a little worrying to me, but I think they will. They've used the spy in the playoffs and used it effectively. I think they probably will again. I think for Notre Dame to win, it's got to be a low-scoring game, and they've got to kind of take a page out of the Michigan, Nebraska to some extent, and Texas plans is to make it a low-scoring game, focus quite a bit on Jeremiah Smith, and try to get the quarterback loose. But I think Ohio State will be ready for that. Also, Notre Dame has to have seen and taken a good look at what Texas did with the running back coming out of the backfield. So Ohio State will have to figure out that. I've got a lot of confidence right now. My confidence is sky high right now in Jim Knowles and the defensive staff and what they're figuring out week by week and them being prepared. So I think it'll be somewhere in the range of a 30-20 type game with Ohio State coming out on top.
Marcus?
I think like Bill does, we're going to come out on top by a 2-score lead. I haven't bet the game yet, and I haven't bet any of the games yet, but this one I feel like is going to go our way. I just feel like after that Michigan loss, my vibe was this is what's coming because I believed in the talent. It never changed from the preseason. This is one of the best rosters in college football. It really is. It's proven out to be. It's 90% healthy. Okay, so better than
Which
most.
is a good number.
Yeah, it's really strong. The luck factor, the enthusiasm factor, the excitement factor, the fans everyone's believing all of a sudden. That recipe, from down in the dumps 4 weeks ago to where they're at now, I can't even imagine a world where they lose this game right now. And I know that's dangerous to say and overconfident, but I don't know if Notre Dame has the passing game. That running game they have, that could, but I don't think you're just going to pound OSU into oblivion and, blow them off the ball the whole game. The only concern I have is if Notre Dame can shorten the game and, have a 9-minute drive and an 8-minute drive. And all of a sudden, Ohio State with more possessions would pull away farther. And all of a sudden they're not pulling away the way I'm predicting they will. But I think at least a 10-point lead would be the end of the game here.
I wonder if Notre Dame losing defensive tackle Riley Mills, who I think was first or second team All-American, was really the final straw for them in terms of being able to beat the Buckeyes. So I'm not going to pick now because I'll be on the show on Monday. But Mark, bringing up here now, Buckeye in the Sky, second half. This is premium. If you guys had first half, was up on the show, up on the site already. So this would be coming in the second half. Take it away.
Yeah, there's a theme in this second half breakdown where a couple times Texas comes out in this cover 2 shell, and you're going to see right before the snap of the ball, they roll to cover 3. See the safety come up, everybody goes back. Now you have 4 guys in underneath coverage. Okay, and this is a play early in the game where Will Howard throws it to the other team. The play action here is meant to hold the linebackers, and you're going to see the linebackers all take 2 steps up. What you're trying to do is hit that hitch on the outside in that void. And I think Jeremiah Smith, we're trying to force a little bit into him. I showed that linebacker. He was the first one to drop out. He gets such great depth that Will Howard doesn't do a good job of layering it over the top of him into that next layer. And this is football 101. You got to get it over the linebacker because that guy was open underneath the safety. But that's a tough throw, and especially with the change of coverage at the snap of the ball. Ohio State's in 2-man pre-snap. And this is the play we were talking about. One of these linebackers here is going to be the guy that has to cover the running back out of the backfield. But here's what's going to be so confusing about this. And there's 2 plays like this in this breakdown where both of them, the running back goes down the sideline. Both linebackers blitz here. And I'm not sure if they blitz here because Blue is blocking, but there's also JT dropping out here in like a zone coverage. You'll see him kind of drop out where he might be the guy that's got to cover Blue. Because everybody else had their guy man-to-man. And if you see Blue, he just kind of snuck out of there from blocking. This is a broken play. Or JT, who was in zone, was supposed to maybe be spying that guy. But in either case, heads-up play by Orrs, not something that's duplicatable by any other team to make that conglomerance of mush come out to be a cross-yardage play. That's just football playing football. Okay, so man-to-man cover 1 here again. Again, who has the running back? Everybody else has got their receiver assignments. Is it one of these linebackers? Okay. And I know we want someone's head for this play. Both linebackers are on a blitz assignment this year. Neither one of them go for the running back. Both defensive tackles are in a zone blitz assignment. And that, sometimes you gamble and you roll the dice like in a casino and say, we're going to call this coverage. Please don't let them run running back, whatever on this. Let's just hope that they don't have that called, and they had it called. So there's no chance that our defensive tackles are going to get with Blue down the sidelines. Our only chance is that safety over top to make a saving tackle. You want to see that again?
I think it's the corner.
Corner's got man-to-man on the tight end. Sorry there.
But they're not in man.
They are in man. When you lock it up man-to-man before the play, you'll see the line. See it right there?
Okay.
So he right
We're
there.
screwed from the snap then.
I'm saying we have no assignment on the middle running back. Now, we're hoping that those 2 defensive tackles dropping out, if he ran around the middle and hooked it up, it would be enough. But it just is. It was a gamble. It was.
What I'm saying is, I'm not trying to interrupt you. What I'm saying is, if you look at the bottom, you see Igbenogson is the furthest outside. I thought maybe that he would have outside whoever.
Once that guy takes off the line, Igbenogson turns his back and runs with them. And
it's also a good play design to send that guy inside, by the way. The tight end.
Yeah, well, we could do that again and just kind of watch it here. But this play comes up again, and we run the same coverage. So you see twice now we didn't have anybody on the running back. We gambled with a 6-man pressure, and I tell you what, a couple of weeks ago, everyone was loving these 6-man pressures. maybe Texas saw a couple of them and said, hey, if we can catch them in a 6-man pressure, we're going to get either man-to-man with Styles, or we're going to get a defensive tackle or a defensive end covering.
Good stuff. Yep.
Yeah. So this second breakdown is a really interesting one. I just had a 2-play preview. We're trying to tease you a little bit and get you to watch the premium stuff. But, yeah, there's literally nobody there. There's literally, yeah.
My
And you
guess
know what?
is this.
Down around the goal line is a good example of this. When it's 4th and 1 and inches at the goal line, the only way to stop the run is to send everybody. And literally, if they run like a tight end pop pass, you ever see a tight end standing alone? You give them that. So you're doing a 50-50 down there sometimes of we're either going to nail your ass in the backfield or you're going to beat us on a pop pass for an easy touchdown. And you'll see, like Ohio State did at the goal line stand at the end, didn't they sting Texas for like a 4 or 5 yard loss? I heard the Knowles interview after the game. He gambled. He goes, I put the big guys in. And he goes, and I left them in again when we were susceptible to a crack sweep, but the guys blew it up, 7-yard loss. And we get, if they would have passed there, it would have been game. Okay. But the 50-50 went Ohio State's way. So sometimes in the middle of the field, you call those plays where please don't let them run tailback swing here. And similarly, Ohio State burned them right before halftime on a play where,
oh my God, yep.
Yeah, please don't let Ohio State run tailback screen here because we're sending the slot corner blitz right by it. So
I tell you what that
chess,
reminded
not
me of.
checkers.
Sorry to interrupt you there. What that reminded me of was back in the day when you used to play the game Battleship. You guys know that game?
Oh, yeah.
You just kind of guess, and sometimes you nail it, and sometimes you don't.
Yep.
And Texas did not. I mean, they how whatever went into that call, I would not be surprised, given the way content is done these days, to see like a documentary film done on that play, because it was such a big deal, the momentum and all the decisions that went into it. So it was wonderful. All right, next time you see these guys will be Tuesday. Let's hope they are world champion adjacent and a national championship adjacent at that time. Could not appreciate them stopping by more. Thank you, Bill, and thank you, Mark. I'm going to read our final ad, and it is Pat Murphy's favorite, Joy Mode. Say goodbye to weakness in the bedroom with Joy Mode's sexual performance booster. This all-natural supplement is designed to enhance blood flow, give you more reliable effort in the bedroom. It features just 4 simple, proven ingredients. Unlike prescription options that involve doctor visits and managing refills, Joy Mode provides a straightforward, effective solution. Join over 200,000 men who trust Joy Mode to burst their performance without the side effects. If you are looking to take your game to the next level, try joymode.com and use code Bucknuts at checkout for 20% off single purchases and 30% off subscription orders. That's tryjoymode.com and use code Bucknuts for 20% off single purchases and 30% off subscription orders, and tell them Pat Murphy sent you. Have a good one, Bucknutters.